Mhm.
Hey, Tony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a minute. I'm glad we got a chance to glad you tapped me and we could catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we launched Shop Small Sunday earlier this year because empowering each other is a mandate at Noble. And so to that end, each Sunday, we're highlighting different entrepreneurs, creatives, folks who are really doing amazing things. And because 2020 continues to challenge us, and now more than ever, we really need to support each other. So, um, like I said, thank you so much for doing this. And without further ado, I would love to introduce my friend. With me today is Tony Triumph, founder of the Triumphant Group, a New York City-based branding agency. The Triumphant Group is an international product and brand management agency providing marketing, communications, and strategic brand building opportunities in the lifestyle, media, and consumer goods industries. Tony has worked with Ben Sherman, Kettle One, Puma, Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, and so much more. So we're here today to talk about the entrepreneur life and all of its highs and lows.
Yeah.
And so just, I know that in your past life, you used to be a model and you were in the modeling industry. So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you transition from that to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, the journey from the beginning was very entrepreneurial. I took a risk, I've just recently gone public with my story. Well, not really public, but I put it out there that I let it be known rather that I moved to New York at 19 with $300 in my pocket. And if you think about that now, trying to do anything like that now as an adult, you're like, what were you smoking? Are you crazy? Are you silly? And it's like, yeah, you really got to step out there and take a risk when you see a vision and you want to accomplish something that's true and dear to your heart. So I looked at modeling as an outlet for creativity. I always say it's my key to New York. It's what moved me to the city. It's the thing that I moved there to pursue, but it's the world that opened up so many other doors for me. And to this day, that's probably, I mean, I've worn many hats literally, and throughout my career, but that's the, literally always been a hat. But that's probably the main industry that I always circle back to, even to this day, and utilize contacts that I met, 10, almost 15 years ago now. So modeling was very important. It was a doorstep. It was a platform. It was a stepping stone, and I appreciate that journey.
Was there like a single moment where you were like, hey, I think I can open an agency, or was it more of a gradual process when you realized, there was a need for this and that you were really good at this?
I always knew from the beginning, but I'm very self-taught. I'm not that academic scholar. I'm not that, college educated. Yes, I am, but I feel like I've never used any of my college, girths, for lack of a better term. Everything that I've utilized to get me where I am is from putting in the blood, sweat, and tears and frustrations and crazy nights and taking risks and joining places and doing things and meeting people happenstance on the train, on the streets. And you know you get into that cycle for 10 years of living in a big apple, and eventually it's going to lead you to your destiny. And so, yes, to answer that question, I always knew I wanted to start an agency, but at first I thought I wanted to do PR, and then thought I wanted to do marketing just solely and PR solely. Or I said, okay, well, maybe I'll just be a content creator solely, or maybe I'll open a modeling agency, or maybe I'll start a magazine. And I had all of these ideas, and then I just had to kind of dibble with each of those industries until I built the repertoire and the skill set and the network to really finally have the confidence to say, hey, I'm a brand builder. Everything that I've contributed to, in my company wise or industry wise, has been for the greater good of a brand's core development and raising their value as an entire entity. So that was where I took the leap. And I said, it was around 2012, 2013, start moving around, moved to Paris, moved to London, all that fun stuff. And I started really just building towards, the official launch of the Triumphant Group.
Awesome. And so you just touched on this a little bit, but entrepreneur life is super tough, but really rewarding. And just for anyone who's listening, what would you say to somebody contemplating sort of going down this path? What would be, sort of your hindsight, 2020 vision thoughts?
I'll say, like I tell my interns, I get people that tap me and say, "Hey, I want to work for you," and I say, "Okay, what do you want to get out of it?" And they might be specific or they might be unspecific. The people that are less specific are the ones that I'm more prone to hire because they are more prone to being adaptable, being versatile, and being open to experiences. I had an intern last year and she kept saying, "Well, I just don't know what I'm getting out of this." And I said, "Hey, listen, I've done so many jobs up into this, well, mostly in the beginning, but even up to this point, sometimes, you take on a client or you take on a project, you say, I really don't know what this is going to do for me, but I know something with this I'm going to be able to pull from, even if it's 5 or 10 years from now, but this is going to benefit me some way and it's going to be very valuable." And so I always tell that to my interns. Like I told her, even if you're not an intern, if you're someone that's, senior level, mid level, starting, just getting out of school, whatever the case may be, just be open to opportunities. If it's something, even if it's something that you may not necessarily be drawn to, but it's something in your heart saying, "Hey, this strikes me. This is luring my attention." Go for it, because you're definitely going to be able to pull something from that at some point along your journey in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I love that point because I think one of the things about being an entrepreneur is to have the ability to pivot, to navigate uncertainty, and to sort of be able to sort of MacGyver stuff a lot of times, to be perfectly honest, right? That it's really about being nimble and humble to know that you may know some stuff, you might not know some stuff, but how do you figure it out? Who do you need to reach out to? Who do you have to what books do you need to read? Whatever it is, right? Like just putting in the sweat equity to figure it out, because
That's it.
it's a lot of squeeze, but the juice is worth the squeeze, right? Like once you figure it out, once you get where you're going, once you do that amazing project, get that amazing client, whatever it is, it's like no other feeling. I think you can't really compare it to anything else professionally, because you just know you own this soup to nuts.
Yep.
um
Yep. Yeah. You're so right. I just love what you said. I was just going to say, I love the sweat equity mention that you said, because a lot of
yeah,
people don't understand how that works.
yeah, so it's like it's probably the toughest road to go down, but it's probably also the most rewarding road to go down, and as long as you're ready to put in that sweat equity, yeah, like it might be for you. But it sounds like it was a calling from you from the beginning. And I think for a lot of people, it's like something that they just keep going back to, of like, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And if you don't get swayed, then maybe you really should do it. Like,
I'll give you an example. I mean, I went from when I was modeling, and all my income didn't come from modeling, but I was consulting. I just launched my consulting, launched myself as a brand consultant. So I was still modeling. I was working in media, doing projects here and there. I mean, I had so many sources of income. I was working, as a contractor through other companies, and I was bringing in 6 figures a year, but with multiple streams of income. When I launched my agency and I went full throttle, I went from making that to making probably a third of that, for one.
mhm.
And, I literally, like, on the brink of moving, and like, "Oh my God, do I have to give up my apartment? Can I afford to stay in New York?" And, I literally, like, was in that moment, was like, "What the hell were you thinking?" But something in the back of me, it would come from the back, it would come from the side, it would come in my ears when I was asleep. Keep going, keep going. You got this. Or I would say, "I'm tired," and say, "No, go to that event." And then I would meet someone, and I met you like that happenstance, like,
Mhm.
and we connected and we've become friends. But you always got to listen to your inner gut. You could be the only person in the room, and that's like you. You talk to one person in that room, and that could be somebody that you walk away with, and it's your next client or your mentor or whatever it is that you're looking for. To complete that puzzle of entrepreneurship, to get you to your next level. So
Yeah, but you took a risk and you invested in yourself. And so you bet on yourself and you're like, I know I can do this. So you took a financial risk, like all of that, fine, but you knew you could do it. And I think that sort of conviction is what you need. You have to believe in yourself if you're going to go down this path. Because if you don't think that you can do it, then yeah, you're going to find yourself discouraged very early on, I think. I think something that you mentioned earlier was like speaking about your network and just can you talk about how important it is to build a network? So for anyone who's again contemplating sort of going down an entrepreneurial path, did you have mentors that also helped you along the way?
Unofficially, yes. I've always had people in my corner cheerleading for me that were older than me and more accomplished. Mentorship is a little subjective because, now that I mentor, I sometimes mentor through programs that officially set that up, kind of like Boys and Girls Club style. And I
Mhm.
also have people that hit me up and they kind of like, they might start off as an intern and then they attach to me kind of like a little brother, little sister situation. And, you know, it's always kind of like that unofficial, like, oh, let me call Tony for his advice. So I had situations like that when I was, just coming into the game and I appreciated that. But I think for me, my network, something in me was always just like, hold on to this person. It could be a person that I meet at a casting, or it could be a model, or it could be a photographer. I'm using the fashion modeling industry as an example, but it could be anybody that you met. Let's say you went to college with them. It could be a professor, somebody that you don't talk to, you hold on to, and you don't talk to for 5, 7, 6, 8, however many years, 10 years even. And you get to a certain point in your career, you're going to circle back to that person and they're going to say, oh, Tony, we got some synergy here. Let's collaborate. Let's work together. Let's build this together. Oh, I'm looking for a co-founder. Oh, I've done that. Let's sit down and have coffee. I want to introduce you to this person and that person and that person. So things like that, your network is so golden. And especially when you start to get older. I was on a call last week and somebody said, Tony, the beautiful thing about getting older is that the people around you are starting to become more senior. So the people that you started with early on, they might now be the CMO or the COO or the CEO of whatever. And it's like,
Mhm.
hey, that's my dog. Like, hey, bling. Oh yeah, I can use your services. Let's talk. And then the next thing you know, you got your new client or your new opportunity or whatever it is that you're looking to do. And you didn't have to interview, you didn't have to pitch, you didn't have to go and bid on the project like a lot of
You
agents,
worked on that relationship over years, and that's
you know.
so important. Yeah.
So
Um,
I think that's an interesting nugget, and I'm glad you asked me that because people don't realize that sometimes they look at people as so disposable because they meet so many people, but the world is so small, and it means a lot when you get into a room and you have to work with someone and you guys also know some of the same people. It just makes the relationship so much sweeter. People can vouch for you. It adds to your legitimacy, it adds to your portfolio, and people can vouch for your work, your aesthetic, your workflow,
Absolutely. No, I love that.
you
Like,
know?
and I think it's so important. You're 100% right. We oftentimes, I don't think about the fact that, especially in industries, the longer you're there, the smaller the circle gets. So the people that you're with, you're going to keep running into them, and yeah, it's important that you just, I mean, regardless of whether it's just for work or not, but like it's just important that you um, build those relationships and are able to lean on your network which you don't know if it's going to bring you opportunities or help you solve a problem or whatever it is. So yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
I think that's the main one when it's time to solve a problem. Because problems, as a strategist, problems come up for me every day. And I have to always assure my clients because, hey, oh no, I know this person. We're good. I can fix that. Or I've already gone through this. We're good. Let me make a call, and that's where your network comes in.
100%.
Mhm.
Um, so this year, obviously, COVID has been super disruptive. And I guess just talk to me a little bit of what you've seen, yourself professionally, but also, a lot of the businesses and the clients that you work with, I'm sure have been impacted by COVID and what you've done over the course of the year to reposition or pivot through the pandemic.
Yeah, I think early on, as we all kind of watched I won't say world fall apart, but things fall apart that we had been building for years, I think the main thing for me was, okay, think like a person who's already come out of this. Okay, compare this to everything you've already gone through in your life and what that dim and grim feeling felt like versus when it was over. So I had to start preparing for that because I told myself, okay, hey, this too shall pass. We're going to get through this, even if we all have to sit in our houses for 6 months, like we did before we gradually started coming back to life 6 months later, around end of summerish.
We might
And
have to go back in our houses now.
I'd have to go back in our houses now. But, it really just, it made me think outside of the box, always have been a forward thinker. But it really made me think outside of the box and think, okay, how can I be a resource to what people need right now? So let's just take the number off the table. Let's take the service fee off the table. And let's just reach out to every client that you've consulted for in the past year, 6 months, even 18 months. Hey, how are you doing? How can I help you with anything? I know things are crazy. I just want to let you know that you have my support. I'm more than happy to offer you a 1 hour free consultation just to help you pivot through COVID, or if you need to walk through any new systems that you're looking to implement with somebody that's familiar with your brand, I'm here. So really just make yourself a resource. And again, this is where your network comes in. So many people reached out to me. It was like, Tony, thanks so much. I'm happy to talk, but my brain is crazy right now, but I appreciate you reaching out. So, it really, and that's really planting a seed for later, so when people are ready to come back in motion, they're going to remember that. And they're going to say, okay, Tony, it wasn't just about the money for him. He really cares about me, and it was genuine, it's a strategy, but it was genuine. I genuinely want to see brands succeed. So, I think that was the main thing for me, is just letting people know that they weren't in this alone. And, I'm here too. I'm a business, I'm pivoting. Let me know what it is that I can help you with. And that's kind of, if you want to really be tech specific, I mean, that was kind of where my podcast came to life, which you'll be a guest on. You'll be on your episode is coming up. So,
So let's talk about that. So I know that during quarantine you launched a podcast, and what brought that about, right? It sounds like it was part of your pivot, thinking really thoughtfully about what is meaningful right now, what would be helpful for people, and how you could add value and be supportive given the world around us. And that's the vibe that I got from it, but I'm super curious as to what happened in your head that we were like, you know what, I'm launching this now, finally.
For me, especially as a content creator as well, being a part of, some of the work that I do, I feel like I'm always sitting on content and ideas that I never get to bring to life because it's just never enough space or never enough platforms to bring them to light. So I said, you know what? I'm talking to myself too much in the mirror, during COVID, because I don't have anybody to talk to, but my brain is still going. So let me get a microphone. Let me get my lighting set up. Let me do whatever it is that I need to do to be able to create a space where people can come to and receive information without having to pay for it, because even that's tricky. Like sometimes when you think about consulting, a mature business is going to see the value in a consultant, but a business that's a startup, they're going to say, a startup, a consultant, I can Google that, really you can't. But with a podcast, you can at least tune in and you can get some type of firsthand perspective from somebody that's gone through it, lived through it, listen to their guests, listen to their highlights, their insights, their, all of the things that they might have messed up on and pull from it, and it's the feedback has been great. So yeah, that's really where it came from is wanting to serve people, wanting to
Yeah,
create a space.
I love that because I think that's one of the things that, was really important to us. And that's the whole reason why we even launched, like I was saying earlier, Shop Small Sunday, because I just feel so strongly that if we're not advocating for supporting each other ourselves, bringing each other's stories to light ourselves, and to sit around and think that somebody else might do it for you is really, really a miss, right? And so creating that space, creating that content, creating the atmosphere to be able to support each other. And, there's so many people who are doing so many amazing things, and how can I possibly help? Right. And I think that is such an important point, because we really are really in this together. And it totally circles back to your point earlier about your network, right? Like, your network is your net worth, right? And that if we're really there for each other, it's so critical, because we all need to get through this. It doesn't help me if everyone is in a bad way, and it won't help you if everyone is in a bad way. And so it's like, damn, how can we help each other? So no,
And I,
that like really, really speaks to like a lot of what I've been
mhm.
thinking about myself too, as I'm sort of living through all of the ups and downs of 2020.
Yes, as
Um,
a CEO, I mean, I think the main thing for me is when I would have these conversations, these, no strings attached conversations with just CEOs and things like that, I would feel their frustration because I, I'm a CEO as well, but I'm also a founder. I own my business, flat out. But some of these CEOs, they're like, I'm struggling to create opportunities during this pandemic because I'm on a salary. So I don't really have the luxury of not being able to work or being able to wait this out. Like, my boss and the owners of this company are waiting for me to come back with solutions to how we can pivot through this pandemic. So I just I really depend on them, A, for business. So I don't ever want to see them down and out and losing their jobs. But B, it's like they're human, like, this is probably the most important thing. I don't want to see anybody flustered to the point where they may not be able to operate their job in the future. I don't want to see my industry collapse because there weren't people like me that were willing to step forward and put commerce aside for a minute and profit aside for a minute to really just help the industry just come up. Because if you don't, commit to something, if you don't help in that sense, it's going to collapse, and it's not going to be anything here for any of us. So, and I think we've all put in too much work for, our creative, arts, entertainment, commerce, e-com, retail, every business that intertwines with that, even music and fashion, whatever,
yeah,
to not succeed,
no, 100%. And I mean, I think that's the other thing, like, just um so many small businesses, right? And so, obviously this conversation is about being an entrepreneur and sort of what it takes to be gutsy enough to become one, right? But also there are just so many small businesses that are in the neighborhoods that we live and work in who are really struggling, and it's really no fault of their own, right? Like, if the mandate says you have to close, the mandate says you have to close, right? We experience that firsthand, and it's a really scary experience to go through. And having people that are on your team, being able to lean on your community has been such an amazing experience. And so it's sort of one of those feelings that absolutely helped us get through the worst of it. And just, yeah, I completely understand and feel your like your vibe right now of just like trying to like pay it forward even,
yeah.
right? And just knowing that like there are all these people who helped you get to where you are, and all these people who helped and supported you. And so, I'll be damned if I don't turn around and do the same thing to the best of my ability for the coffee shop down the block, or the juice bar across the street, and all of that. So 100%, I love that you said that. And I think it's so important, because even even right now, right, we're in a very polarized country, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and it just is really important for us to like understand that we're all people, and to take that moment to just acknowledge like our humanity and just say, are you okay? Do you need some help? Like,
Right.
um no, I really love that.
Mhm.
um
Thank you.
so we were also talking earlier about just the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur, some nuggets in terms of recommendations. I think one of the most important things is talk to a lot of people before you decide to go down this road. You might have a side hustle right now, and you're like, I think I'm good at this. like ask people around you, going back to the network point, ask people around you, am I actually really good at this? Like, do you think that this could be a business? And on that note, you mentioned earlier that people reach out to you all the time. You've got, former interns that you mentor and all of that. And so just, to all the aspiring entrepreneurs out there listening, if they have any follow-up questions, how do they find you? How do they reach you? Where do they find the podcast? All of that.
So the podcast is www.buildingabetterbrand.com. That's the domain. You can type that in and listen to all the episodes. You could also type either my name or the podcast name in on Apple, Spotify, and then the other one is Google Play. I'm not really familiar with the Google Play one, but it's there. It's a few other systems have picked it up as well, but it's mostly on Spotify and Apple. That's where most people listen to it. So definitely follow us, subscribe us. You can, whatever, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, what's the other one? Twitter. I'm trying to get more active on Twitter, especially when we have all this political stuff going on, and you got to show your support for what's right. And even outside of that, just, being able to communicate with words is very important. So you can reach out to any of those. You can also shoot me an email, info@thetriumphantgroup.com. And we can, I'm happy to answer questions, or do a courtesy, 25-minute consultant call, something like that. I'm more than happy to help out and continue to give back to the community, especially during this time. So
awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, well, hopefully I can see you soon, right? We're all still stuck in our respective states at this point. Yeah. Yeah. But thank you again so much for doing this. And I know that this is invaluable for people who are listening, who are thinking about, whether or not they want to go down being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. So this has been really, really amazing.
Yes, my pleasure. Just my takeaway would be to talk to everybody, like you said, talk to everybody in your network, build a network, talk to people that don't look like you, talk to people that don't sound like you, talk to people that don't come from where you come from, talk to people that aren't in your industry. Because again, those people are going to be the ones that help you the most in ways you least expect.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. You just left on like mic drop, like great gem right there.
My pleasure. My pleasure.